Awesome. Well, would you all join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, we've got a few things on the docket here tonight. We'll get right into it. So we're going to have to bounce around a little bit on the agenda. So you might notice that we have a public hearing first on the agenda. We typically open with those, but that's advertised at 5:30. So we're going to open our first meetings and then open the public hearing right at 5:30. So if it's going to be a little bit of a bouncing around the agenda, folks, for those in the room and those watching at home. So with that, I'm going to call the Board of Assessors, Town of Damariscotta, meeting to order for September 20th. We do not have minutes at this time, so we can we'll table those until next Board of Assessors meeting. Andy, works for you. I don't believe we don't have anybody here from the assessor's agent or anybody tonight to report for any reports or anything, correct?
We do not.
Yep. So the only thing on the agenda there is a series of abatements. Anything noteworthy? They look pretty straightforward. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary there. So we'll entertain a motion on those abatements. Everybody wants to take it?
I'll make a motion to pass the abatements.
Okay. Andrea's gonna motion the abatements.
Second.
Second. Tom's gonna second. Any discussion? All right, good. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And if there's no further discussion or actions for the Board of Assessors, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Board of Assessors meeting.
So moved.
Are we
All right, Dan moves and Andrea seconds. Okay, on discussion, all those in favor? All right. Oh, we'll move on. Oh, and with that, I'll now call the Damariscotta Select Board meeting of September 20th to order. Start with some, as usual, we'll start with some business here. We've got, we do have minutes.
We do not.
No, we
Oh,
don't have
we
minutes
do
for that
not
one,
have
do we?
minutes.
That's
Nope.
right.
No.
I thought we did. Yeah,
Next meeting you'll have.
we get a lot of minutes. Yeah.
I didn't get the ones from I was gonna write up the ones from the special one that was held at the
Oh, yeah.
coastal rivers about the AOS
Okay.
93, and I didn't get those completed.
Yeah, no problem. I thought I'd seen the minutes for the 6 or something in there, but that's, yeah, bad. So, okay. No problem. We are going to table those and we'll have a pile of minutes not a problem. So, we do have a couple of financial reports, payroll warrant 13. Everybody get a chance to look that over?
Mhm.
All right.
A motion to approve warrant 13.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
second?
And Andrea seconds. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? All right, payroll warrant 13 passes. And then we have accounts payable number 14. I'll move AP 14.
Second.
Andrea seconds. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? All right, motion carries just like that. All right, anything come in for correspondence or anything, Andy? We've got a.
No, I'm bringing one of them up in the report.
Okay, yep, cool. So, I think we probably, like I said earlier, maybe we should, we'll go through our official action. We'll get these, majority of these out of the way, and then we can back into the report and stuff like that, if it's all the same to you. So we're going to skip, we're going to bounce up to number 5 in the select board meeting to official action items. And I think we have a trunk or treat donation to consider. Chief wants to go. He's up ahead of me. Yeah. So you
Got your
got enough
cocktail?
water there?
That is one thing good.
Yeah.
I wanted to buy a water jug that was built like me.
As interim public health officer, I advise drinking a lot of water. That's all right. So here we go.
I'll make this. quick.
What you got?
So trunk or treat's an event that we've had several years. Probably all of you know what it is. We see upwards of 600 or more, maybe 800 kids. This year, we took a donation in of $1,000 that was sent to us by mail from some type of a grant.
Donor advised fund, yeah.
Nice.
And I'm
Yeah.
asking that we apply that money, you'll afford me the opportunity to put that in my budget to be spent specifically for the candy for our trunk or treat event.
Sounds fair enough.
In a nutshell, it's October 31st.
Yep.
We need plenty of trunks, so if
Yeah.
any of you would like to show up with your car, and back in there, we provide the candy for most of the trunks. So it doesn't really cost you anything to show up other than to dress up and see all the cool kids and
Awesome.
some adults.
That's really grown, isn't it?
What's the date?
It's,
What's
yeah,
the date again?
October 30th. It's on Halloween
Okay.
and it's at GSB school.
Yeah.
We have a meeting set up, myself, Karen Ann Hagar, and Sally Farrell from the YMCA to talk on LCTV on trying to get back. So I think it's the 4th, I believe, October 4th, for a quick thing to talk about the collaboration that we do
oh, cool.
and how this kind of came about and how big we've gotten it. So. It's cool.
Yeah, awesome.
It's great that you got that donation.
Yeah, we're.
Stretch that out.
And that's not the only donation. That's the only one that I have to get approved for you folks. We have other ones we'll pay directly for the candy. That actually doesn't cover all the candy that we go through. We went through $1,500 last year.
Wow.
So I have other donors, but that was one single donation this year that they won't. The way they sent it in to us, we had to get approval from you folks. That was essentially how it went.
Well, we got that new candy store, so there's a lot of variety around.
Yes, so that's always been the tricky part, right? Is Rennie's has been great and they sell us the candy, not quite at cost, but they give us a substantial discount. So think about $1,500 worth of candy. Really, it's closer to $1,800 or $1,900 worth of candy. But-
Yeah, it's a big retail.
How do you get enough variety? Because we provide the candy for 45 trunks. The kids kind of get the same candy from trunk to trunk. Not that that's not great. They're still getting candy, but one of the things we're trying to do is get some more variety. Not that I want to fill them with horrible candy, right? But at the end of the day, I'd like for each trunk or maybe every other trunk to have a little bit different variation instead of, Reese's peanut butter.
Just straight high fructose.
I'm not
corn syrup.
complaining. I'm not complaining. We get the good stuff. These kids get the best.
No, that's awesome.
I'm surprised it's that little in terms of the cost, because I can tell you where I live in town, I think they all leave your trunk and treat and come to our house.
Yeah, yeah.
They do.
Oh, everybody leaves there and
Yeah.
gets into town. Yeah.
The guy across the street from me when I moved in said, you realize there's a candy tax for this neighborhood.
There is. My sister's across from you and she gets like 300 or 400 kids.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first year we
When they show up, trunks.
we weren't prepared for that the first year.
It's
We are now. but it's-
Because they show up.
Shutting the lights off.
They want the candy, right? They come to our event and I get it. They come with a minimal amount of candy. They don't know what to expect. And then in the first 10 minutes, right, when that first wave comes through, they'll come over and go, what do I do? I want a candy. I say, yeah, take some more, right? This is not just a PD event, right? This is a collaborative community event. We'll go until we run out. We served 500 hot dogs last year.
I was just gonna.
Oh, my.
We ran out a half an hour before the end of the event. This is growing too.
Yeah.
Far bigger than what we did in the parking lot.
Awesome. Well, we better give you some money,
Okay.
so I'll make a
So-
motion to accept donations. The donation as police department revenue to support the annual trunk or treat event. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tom seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, cool.
Can I give,
So-
just take one more minute of your time, just a quick update on our accreditation process. I think you're all aware of
Yep.
what that was. I'm very happy to announce that we will be accredited by November. Likely our assessment will take place next month. So once that accreditation is done, we'll get a $2,500, the second half of our reimbursement grant. We got $5,000 back to the town. So we'll be able to apply for that. But not only that, I mean, that's great, but we will be the smallest police department in the state of Maine that ever got accredited,
That's awesome.
which is pretty great to say. I mean, that just speaks volumes for everybody sitting there, our PD and how professional we are.
Yeah.
Over 100 proofs, over 100 policies. It's all digital now. It's accessible. It's incredible. It forced me to be a better chief, which is great. So super excited.
Well,
Just wanted to
congratulations
let you know
for, yeah, your staff.
And that will happen here. I'll show you all. They will present that plaque to the town as well as the police department here
Oh, nice.
sometime in November.
Yep.
So I'd like to get a big check. So
Ceremony. Yeah.
yes, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good night. All right, okay, that's cool. It's a good event.
Mhm.
So moving along here, we'll stay in our official action items. We do have a couple of appointments for the Historic Preservation Review Commission. Ask you, Andy, have they been active? They have much to do right now, or they, it's been pretty,
Michael Martone, our planner, is kind of trying to breathe some life back into the group so they can meet as the bylaws, I think it was that they had
Yeah.
outlined, or was the ordinance outlined. for
seems
them.
like nothing's come up that they've had to,
There've been a couple small more renovation type projects, replacing windows and things like that kind
nothing
of have
major.
to, nothing's really risen to the top for them to have to review. They've been able to handle it internally.
Cool.
Minor updates. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're still supposed to
Nice.
be meeting, I think, quarterly per the
Just per, yeah.
for the ordinance.
for
And
the
so
ordinance, so, okay.
he's gonna try and bring them. Current.
Fair enough. So, I'll make a motion to, appoint Bruce Rockwood and Emily Davy to the Historic Preservation Review Commission.
Second.
Any seconds? Any discussion? Those in favor? All right, they can keep plugging away.
Is
So,
Bruce still on the Board of Appeals?
I believe so.
Okay.
yep. All right. So we have an application for an on-premise license for the Lobster Hall. You'll get a chance to look over everything. I don't see any issues with anything there. All
That looks straightforward.
right. We'll entertain a motion on that one. If anyone wants to take it, I'll take it.
Make a
Whatever.
motion to approve the on-premise license for Lobster Hall.
All right.
Second that.
Although
gonna second.
this says, hold on, this says the wrong thing.
I think there was a misprint on the, in the agenda items.
That
here.
doesn't affect what we're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, it's for the Lobster Hall, but it says Schooner Landing on
My bad.
the thing there. So yeah, I just.
It's
doesn't-
okay,
It doesn't,
right?
no, you've made the
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
This is, you've made the motion for Lobster
Okay.
Hall, so we're good there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those, Dan, sorry. Knew it was one of us. All those in favor? Okay. All right, how we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great here. So let's, Andy, why don't we go through, let's get into your updates before we have to, break for the public hearing. So we're doing good on time. Sure. You wanna bring us up to speed? Anything exciting?
Sure.
Yeah.
I met with Michael and Kevin Sutherland, the interim manager in Newcastle, about something that came out of their planning board, which was a recommendation to the Newcastle Select Board to consider a housing committee and perhaps a joint housing committee between the two towns.
Okay.
After we talked, we thought maybe it was just slightly premature. They're wrapping up updates to their comp plan, needs to be approved by the state. We're in the middle of updating our comp plan. We know there's plenty of things that the select board should probably be discussing about setting priorities and guidance for the committee to pursue what exactly. So knowing Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission's coming to one of our meetings, we invited them to come and present to the board. We're suggesting they present to both boards. The two boards meet jointly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Great idea.
Kevin would like to entertain the possibility of having kind of a facilitated conversation following that of the two boards. I think the way it's going to work out, unfortunately, is the hope was that it could be a springboard for the comp plan follow-up discussion, but in this case, the comp plan committee is going to meet, I think, the week before.
It's a community conversation on the 25th.
I say the week before,
Yeah.
so on the 25th, so the week before meeting that kind of zeroes out, and we're gonna have to do it on the 30th if that's okay with this board, and that those two dates worked for Newcastle.
That's a
board.
Monday, the 30th is a Monday,
I
right?
believe so.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
so-
Yes. Yeah, because Halloween's Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So if that would work for the
Yeah.
board, and that's something you'd like to pursue as a joint discussion, to see where that might go.
Yeah.
Forward.
Yeah, I think so. And that, from what I understand, Dan's email that, yeah, you guys are coming off of your 25th, you have your joint, community meeting. We do. So you'll have some information then, and yeah, and it'll be interesting. Yeah. So let's make that happen.
Perfect. Kevin and I'll work on a location. Be great to have some folks in the community there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
having a room big enough to be able to accommodate both boards set up as they need to be, and then others. So we'll work on where we can do that.
Yeah. That'll be it'll be a special meeting for us. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Capital project updates, still working with our engineers, working through both Egypt Belvedere change order reviews. We have had some back and forth with the contractor on a couple items. But our engineers working on both for Miles and that one, kind of their final recommendations for approvals. So we'll still work through those. EDA parking lot project. It did include in the agenda an amendment to the services for engineering on that. There was quite a delay, as we all know, in getting the FEMA approval, and then
Yeah.
EDA's revised work, which causes them to do some editing to the final plans because they had worked through a good chunk of the final design and bid specs and some of the permitting. And so based on the revised scope of work, they do need
But aren't they just
Money.
eliminating stuff, not adding?
They are, and so that still requires some components might impact what's above ground. In some cases, they still need to go through and proof and verify all this. We're gonna put it out to bid and not run into issues with.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still some work involved.
So it's gonna require some time to go
Yeah.
through. George Parker and I had talked with the engineer about it, and we met with the Public Works Committee to discuss that among other things. What I did in the meantime was ask if Wright Pierce would proceed with making those changes while we continue to, in good faith, work towards, agreeing to the amendment. And they did say yes. So we were a little surprised they hadn't been working on it for the last
Right,
4 or 6 weeks. It was waiting for this amendment to come forward. So they're still thinking that they provided with that a timeline, proposed timeline to get this out to bid. Let's see the page.
Yeah. I'll the page out, Andy. Remember when you get to it.
50,
57.
57.
Okay, yeah.
So revising the plans, they estimate about a 4-week period, working on the DEP application for the outfalls, 2 weeks. That becomes a much simpler permit from what it was before, just because we'll use the existing outfall locations, a little more straightforward. Submitting that permit, and then getting the specifications of the project details revised. And then we'll be able to submit to EDA for their approval. And then once we get the green light from them to proceed with advertising the bids, which they're anticipating by December 1st, that they're still anticipating being able to start in the spring with an estimate of 8 months to complete once they start. So lots to work through on the community side still, but this is a tentative plan from them. As we kind of flesh this out, we'll be able to I'd like to bring in some community input to some of the language that'll be in the bid documents around scheduling and
Yeah, that's gonna be.
Yeah.
some kind of
Definitely.
parking,
Parking and-
allowances. We still need to kind of work through that, but that
Yeah.
public input from the stakeholders will kind of be included in what's
Yeah, definitely. Andy.
expected.
There's gonna be, you have to figure out some logistics there and,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So we'll get through,
Okay, well, we have a timeline.
We'll get through Pumpkin Fest, I think, and then try to get the, stakeholders meeting called.
I've seen one of these timelines before for this project.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's before,
Right.
Nobody's, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying.
Do you want to mention the fact that I think prices?
And here we are.
The Feds threw us some curveballs,
That's what
so
we're working through.
yeah. We're getting there. We're
So,
getting there.
Andy, I'm just curious, how does Wright Pierce actually figure out how much the fee should be and how does that go back and forth? Is it just billable per hour or is it?
Yeah, everything they've
based on
got,
hours
everything they have
as
is
opposed to just
billable.
a project?
Right, so what
Yeah.
they're showing is kind of 2 parts of the cost there. Some of that is to do the revisions scope, identified as 19 and 20.
Mhm.
And then there's about $10,000 identified, given the length of time from 2020, I think it was, when we signed the
Okay.
first core document.
Okay.
The rates that were identified then compared to what it is now 3 years later. That's the additional 10,000. So to continue to be able to update scopes that haven't been completed yet. Like there was construction at admin, and some of the reviewing of bids and that kind of stuff, that was born in the original document, the original agreement. And so as those prices increase over the last 3 years, well beyond what they anticipated, there's an allowance in the contract for capturing some of that additional cost. So we're working with George Parker, our consultant, and the engineer to finalize the cost.
But the opinion is that they're high, right?
We're trying to find ways to see if we can bring that
Yeah,
down.
because I was just thinking as a percentage of the total project,
Mhm.
it seems like it's getting to be a big number now.
Yeah, I think for a lot of times we assume between 10 and 15% for
Right.
engineering services on these. And so, that totally is project dependent and what exactly is involved. So, I mean, we're in that vicinity. I think we're about just over 10% from what we think the final price will be. I mean, we still don't know until that bids come out and we're completely completed, but it's still tracking to be about 10%.
Okay.
You need a motion from us on that to continue with the negotiation.
If you'd like me to sign it before we meet again, that's what I think I would need unless you want to approve it as presented. I did get the green light, as I said, from them, that they are going to proceed with revising as we consider this and try and work out a
No,
final
I
agreement.
think as far as you guys are working, I think we probably just, get it moved so that you can negotiate and not exceed
Okay,
the current one.
if the board's comfortable with that, that's what we can certainly do.
Yeah, I mean, I trust you and George working with them and stuff,
Yep.
and trying to get through there. So, yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, well, I'll move ahead on that. So, I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager, you, to negotiate and sign, the amendment as the amendment not to exceed the cost as presented.
Second.
All right, thank you, Tom. And any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, yeah, no, we trust you guys working with them and make something work out of there, so.
Great.
Okay.
Um,
Tom, yes. Thank you.
working to finalize, we have a week, or just barely a week and a day to submit the USDOT grant. Have gotten a few letters of support back. There were 19 that went out in total. I think we've gotten 5 or 6 back so far. There's the federal delegates are going to combine and do a joint one. So there's 3 there that'll come back as one. And met with Coastal Rivers and their engineer last week to just try and flesh out, they're working on the final preliminary cost estimate. So they should have that back this week. But as of right now, we're on track. I met with someone from
Awesome.
MCOG today to talk about whether we would qualify as a disadvantaged community or not, and have some thoughts on how to see if we can better our position as they do the review. There's a few tools that they use to measure what's considered disadvantaged or not economically disadvantaged. But there's a couple other tools that they have that we could look at and consider. There would be a difference between a 20% match and a 0% match if we can qualify as disadvantaged. So trying to work through and navigate that grant language. In the packet, you can review, there's I've completed the road inventory, the road surface inventory. It gives us a better sense of where I think on the PDF, it came in color. So it gives you a sense of how I interpreted the conditions of the roads. That's just the road surface drainage. Either it's poor or it's good. So that doesn't have the same level of breakdown in detail or assessment. But for the road surface, that's what the program is primarily for. It gives you an idea. I'm working on the back end to try and look at what some estimated costs and potential timelines might be to work on some of those roads. And I'll work with the Public Works Committee before that comes to the board for consideration. That's a big part of a capital improvement plan that we don't currently really have. And we kind of look at next couple of years at a time and which one do we want to do, but this will give you a better sense overall all at once, with the mantra perhaps of keeping your good roads good. The ones that have failed are failing, but you don't want the ones that are kind of in that green or yellow to turn into a orange or a red color.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, because the cost goes up so much more.
Right.
Yeah. But we're already working on all the ones that are indicated in red. It's to some degree, right?
Some are, yeah.
Hodgson, I guess that's the parking lot.
Parts of Hodgson are, yeah. I think there's one that
There's
might
some
be
the
in
works that are.
the rehab, perhaps.
Yeah.
That needs to be considered.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Then there's this.
I'm looking over your shoulder.
No, that's all right.
The color.
Pretty colors.
But I'd like to think that what we can do is kind of look at the capital projects and maybe put that at the first part of the budget discussion, not to agree or have definitive answers on, but there's some big numbers when I start doing the
Yeah,
estimates
you need to
on
see
on
what
these
the
projects
costs are
and
gonna
what it
be.
might cost based on costs from this year and the projects we did this year. And trying to using like a 3 or 5% increase factor over the next 5 years. Some of these get pretty expensive, and they're not engineered at this point. There's no input from an engineer, but just trying to give an idea of what are we looking at? Is it
Getting the inventory and seeing where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we, we've talked about this before, but we're like, along the same lines with like culvert inventory and keeping, the roads are one thing, but then we have the culverts. I know that's a little more in depth sometimes, just trying to get those all kind of inventoried, but
Right.
It's a work in progress, but.
Yeah, I've been trying to get Public Works to just try and emphasize keeping the openings clear. So they're easy to find at least and make sure they aren't plugged. And if they are, try and dig them out so they don't become totally blocked and cause something else to fail.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do need to come up with a way to fund an inventory or an assessment of, how long, what's the diameter, what's the condition, That's not something
Keep
that's in
track
that
of all
program yet, but it's something that the DOT is trying to expand that program to offer. So in the meantime, we're left with just kind of field notes and using spreadsheets
Yeah.
for that.
Is what we have. So cool.
Not included in there, Daryl had made a reference to local health officer. So our health officer of a long time, or for many years had, stepped back back in June. In the absence of having appointed someone, the statute refers that directly, in the absence of appointing someone, to the responsibility of the board or the board chair. So you can either take that on or appoint someone in the interim until we can get someone qualified through the statute, based on the statute to do that.
I will take it on to fill the statute, but I need to go on record that I am not qualified as a public health officer. So I'm putting this out there. So we need somebody to step up in the community that's involved with public health that we can appoint very quickly to that position. So that's my plea.
I would think having mild
That can be your
experience,
headline.
we should find someone, right?
I haven't reached out to Cindy Wade yet, but
Yeah.
that was
Because
my
it will-
next step, was just to reach out to her and see if she can know or put me in contact with someone. Talking with
We'll
Michael.
Somebody in the community. Yeah.
Talking with Michael before the meeting, he has a friend who I think works out of the campus that was just appointed at a different town nearby. So we'll track it down and
Somebody.
we'll get there. Um,
Soon.
The other thing I wanted to mention that came in today was a notice for through the Island Institute. They've been doing these aquaculture tours around the coast, and bringing in, community leaders and such that are interested in learning more about aquaculture generally.
Mhm.
On the 25th, next Monday, there is a tour. They've scheduled one at 9, one at 12. Pick one or the other. Leaves out of Bremen. It's a 2-hour tour. And they're going to look at the Atlantic Aqua Farms hatchery. That's Jeff Auger and the Blackstone Point oyster operation.
That's over here. And they're going to leave out of Bremen.
So if folks are interested in joining that, just ask that. I reached out to folks. So, let me know if that's the case.
So what,
Yeah,
they're
I'm
going to
working.
boat around or what?
They are. Yep.
Okay.
And there's a second boat available if there's a need for it.
Who should they sign up with if they're interested? You,
Reach out to me if you're interested in
okay, I
doing
can't.
it.
What are those dates again?
Next Monday
Oh, okay.
at 9 or at noon.
Okay.
Making.
Same tour,
Um,
9 or noon.
We're creeping up on 5:30, Andy.
Yes.
That's all I had on there that I wanted to cover.
Cool. Okay. Sounds good. And, all right, so we can, yeah, it's just close enough. Was it 5:29, 5:30? Yeah.
I got a minute.
You got a minute. That's what I said, you got a
Pedestrian,
minute.
the pedestrian activated light at the crosswalk at Bristol and Miles is in progress.
Oh.
There were the lights. I don't know if you noticed, Anton, the lights didn't get sent. And so the contractor was able to reach out to DOT. They did find them. They were gonna pick them up later this week and bring them and install those lights next week. So the signs are up, poster up, signs are on. As far as I understand, the batteries are hooked in. They just need the lights to flash when someone hits the button.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha.
those will
Okay.
should be finalized next week.
Getting there. Oh, awesome. Yeah, we're hoping, we're gonna open a public hearing and we're hoping to have a few minutes for Anton here till the end. He's waiting up there
Yes.
patiently for us. So we'll, let me open the public hearing first and then, we'll see if we can get through that and get some, I don't want to cut you short, so I know you guys got a
No.
lot to put in, so. So yeah, so with that, we're gonna keep the board meeting open, and I'll call public hearing to order. This is in reference to the general assistance ordinance updates. We were sent a cover sheet on that. So Andy, anything you want to brief us on that?
I can. It's page 36 in your board packet. Happen every year, the state reevaluates the maximums, and as costs of goods and services go up, they typically send this out every year for towns to consider increasing the maximums for the program. This is a state mandated program. All towns must administer.
Yeah.
The state does reimburse us for qualifying expenses, I believe up to 75%, typically 75%. There have been efforts to increase that. I don't remember if that threshold was increased this past year, but there were a lot of bills this past session to consider improving and amending the GA program. What we have presented here page 39, just a quick overview
Mhm.
of the maximums. For example, if someone comes in, they're an individual living alone, the maximum provided is $1,004. They have any income coming in over that 30-day period, that would be subtracted from that maximum allowable expense there that we can provide. So the benefit we can provide.
Is this paid out of our funding, Andy?
We pay, and then the state reimburses us
Reimburses us, okay.
75%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have Cheryl as our administrator, Tara as a deputy administrator. And so they'll work with individuals that are seeking assistance.
Do we have many people that apply?
Didn't have the number. I'd provided, Dan had asked some questions about financially, at least. I didn't have the raw number of applicants that provided it. It's with the COVID period, it had increased financial, assistance had increased. Pretty much every application that came in was directed to be considered as an emergency application. So pretty much received the funding. So the number, kind of ballooned in fiscal year 21. It was
20.
in 20.
2020 was 7,000, which was the highest. And then the last couple of years, it looks like it's only like $2,500 or so.
Right.
So that's,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
Not that many people are taking advantage of it or need it.
Well, yeah, and the way the program's structured, I mean, if you have any income, so I think a lot of times what we're finding is people do have work, but there's still gaps and needs with costs go up or they got behind on something or whatever the situation is. And there's a lot of them that come in saying, I need housing, but this program doesn't provide housing. It provides financial assistance. So if you have housing, this can help fund some of that. So it's not to help find it, but there are other services in town or other providers that we work with that the staff can try and facilitate. There's the Philbrook Fund for some things that, maybe they came in for that aren't eligible here that they can access. And there's other groups in the area that we're able to work with and facilitate through. The Y has a program, a community navigator program, and they have access to resources or contacts to people. And so there's ways to, make sure people at least can get answers and typically find, I believe, what they need.
So even like a one person that's $12,000 a year, and let's say they're on disability or social security, they're going to be at $900 a month anyway.
Right.
So it's a really, really low number.
Mhm.
These are really, really low numbers.
Oh,
And
yeah,
if you have to
the
be
difference
underneath
is
it to
the differentials.
qualify,
Yeah.
that was that's helpful putting that in context of who would qualify for this.
Right.
Mhm.
This is an open public hearing, so any questions or comments from the large audience out here today? Yeah, I don't see any hands up on
We
on
used to
there.
have somebody that they're not there anymore.
Yeah, so, okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns of the board? Okay. Well, hearing no other concerns, we'll close the public hearing for the general assistance ordinance updates. And that leaves the consideration of a motion to accept the or approve the ordinance revisions as presented. Oh,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the general assistance ordinances. Oops.
yeah, the revisions or whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sounds good. Andrea made a motion. And do we have a second?
Second.
Tom's going to second. Okay, all those in favor? I guess I didn't do discussion. Any discussion? All those in
Well,
favor?
well, maybe. So essentially, we're just adopting the state guidelines.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
okay. Motion carries there. Okay, so we've got all our,
It's time for Anton.
yeah. Anything else snuck in there, Andy? I think we covered everything up to this point, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think we have. 5:35, okay. Anton, you want 5 minutes? We don't want you sat here the whole time. I don't want to cut you short, but you've come here all this way, so.
No, I was here to support Mary Ann, who was going to talk about the resolution, which we hope people have an opportunity to look at. And the checklist that goes with it. We've had many conversations with Andy back and forth on it. So I think we'll leave it until the next meeting, hopefully. And I guess that's in October, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
if that's acceptable.
Yeah, thank you, Anton. We appreciate you
like.
patience and
If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this point, but I think it hopefully begins to speak for itself as what our interest is. So.
Now, just give
Thank you.
just a quick overview of it. It's a draft resolution for the board. It takes into consideration a draft resolution for bicycle infrastructure. It takes into consideration the previous plans and efforts the community has gone through. The Heart and Soul project 13 or so years ago. The bike and ped master plan that came following that, the comp plan that was before and that was in between the two master plans for bike and ped improvements. And then whatever's coming out of this comp plan, currently the survey results are favorable for seeing bike and pedestrian infrastructure. And so it's kind of pulling together all of the previous plans and commitments the boards have made over the previous years. Sidewalks have been built in places and some are still being considered
Right.
as funding comes in. But you know, there's a desire to see more bicycle infrastructure in place. And so it was kind of calling attention to a desire to see that happen. There's lots to consider in there. There's a checklist that would help guide a process of review when we do road improvements, you know, so we're prompted to consider bike infrastructure. The idea mostly being, you know, will the town consider it? And then I kind of pushed, well, to what extent exactly? And there's the checklist to help us make sure that we're feeling, you know, both parties feel, okay, I know what you mean. Yes, I see you've considered it. Some roads aren't going to be able to accept it.
Yeah.
Not every road's
Which
being
is-
asked to
yeah.
be considered necessarily. There are some in particular, like state aid roads, that would be nice to see wider shoulders at the very least, if not a bike lane. And so it's at least asking the engineers when we do projects to consider
the consideration.
what's the cost to do this? And maybe it stops at that point, maybe we can proceed at that point, but it just, that's kind of a rough idea of what it's about. And so review that and next meeting we can.
Yeah, we
talk
can have
more.
you have the whole full briefing.
It's
So thank you. Yeah.
it's an effort to work with the town to raise the level of awareness and interest and really action in relation to bicycle safety and accessibility. And it comes from, I think, a place that we discovered, which said it's limited in Damariscotta. It's difficult in Damariscotta also, and we realize that. So
Yeah.
that's what we like to bring to the table. So,
Thank you, Anton. Yeah,
Okay.
appreciate you coming
good,
in.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that, you know, what the comp plan has seen and the survey that we've done shows that people care.
Mhm.
They
Oh, they do.
are
Yeah, it's a big
very,
issue.
very.
It's an important subject. So
Yeah.
I think it's excellent. And I think it's a good idea that it gets incorporated into the process of looking at every project that we have to go through that checklist to make sure that there's no opportunity to put bicycle lanes in. So I think it's a good job.
Sorry, I did.
Oh, I don't know if it's on. I think it's an excellent start and good job. And it's something we ought to adopt that we look at every time we start a new project to make sure that we can do whatever is possible to incorporate bike lanes.
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Anton.
Okay. We're all on the dock. We're done. Yeah, docket. So if it's all the same to the board, I might skip any select board discussions this evening.
Real quick, though.
Let's,
there might-
no.
Real quick, there might be an increase in our allocation for CLC next year because we're planning on not having Edgecombe participate. At least that's what their thought is. So our rate will go up a little bit, maybe 20,000.
All right. Well, that's exciting. Thanks for leaving it. Oh, geez, Tom.
I don't.
That's something light we ended it with.
Or whatever.
Oh, by the way. All right.
Okay. There might be an increase in our allocation for CLC next year, approximately 20,000, because Edgecombe will probably not participate as they did this year.
Tom's going to take care of that for us because he gave us
I convinced
the
them
bad
to-
news. So,
He's gonna
Um,
convince them to.
all right, we do have some stuff to sign before we all run out of here, but I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Who wants to throw that out there?
Sure. And motion to adjourn.
Dan calls motion. I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for the quick abbreviated meeting here.
Get you guys out of here.
Yeah, we'll